The red sun of Deltaris IV was setting behind the jagged cliffs, painting the sky orange and gold. The wind blew softly across the burned remains of the colony. Broken buildings, metal parts, and blackened stone were all that remained after the war. It was quiet now. Too quiet. Captain Elias Rain walked slowly across the dusty ground, his boots crunching debris beneath them. His coat was long and brown, his steps steady but heavy. He was a man in his late 40s, tired from too many battles and too many goodbyes. His face was marked with old scars, and his eyes, though still sharp, carried a weight only war veterans understood. He had come here to rebuild. The war against the Zalith, an insect-like alien race, had ended 6 months ago. Humanity had won, but not without great loss. Colonies were destroyed, families lost, and soldiers like Elias left behind with memories they couldn't escape. Today, he was checking one of the last zones marked unsafe. It used to be a refugee dome, where war survivors were kept during the last Zalith raid. Most people had been rescued, some had not. He moved through the wreckage, scanning with a handheld sensor. It beeped now and then, but mostly showed no life signs. He was about to turn back when he heard something, a soft, almost whisper-like sound. A child's voice. "Hello?" Elias stopped. He turned quickly, hand near his belt, though he carried no weapon anymore. His heart beat faster. Was it a trick? A recording left behind? Or maybe... "Hello?" he called out. Silence. Then the voice came again. "Over here." He stepped carefully toward the sound, around a pile of fallen metal and collapsed wall panels. He knelt down and moved aside a small steel sheet. Beneath it was a hole just wide enough for a child. And there she was. A little girl, no older than 6, sat curled in a corner. Her hair was dark and tangled, her skin pale, and her clothes torn and dirty. But the most striking thing were her eyes, silver, glowing faintly like polished glass under moonlight. She looked up at him, blinking slowly. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she whispered, "Will you be my father?" Elias froze. He had faced monsters in space, watched ships burn, and even survived a Zalith ambush. But nothing had ever shaken him like this soft question from a child in the ruins of a forgotten dome. I'm not your father," he said, gently. The girl nodded as if she already knew, but then she added, "But you can be." Something about the way she said it. It wasn't begging. It wasn't desperate. It was quiet, honest, and full of hope. Elias sighed and looked around. "Is anyone else with you, your family?" She shook her head. "They left a long time ago." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a water pouch, handing it to her. She grabbed it with both hands and drank quickly, spilling a little down. Her chin. "What's your name?" he asked. "Kayla." "Where are you from, Kayla?" She hesitated. Then, almost too quietly to hear, she said, "I was made here." Elias didn't understand at first. Then he looked closer. Her eyes, her skin, the faint hum coming from her. She wasn't just a human child. She was different. "You're not fully human," he said, not unkindly. Kyla nodded. "I'm half. My mother was human. My father was not." His heart sank. During the war, secret projects had tried to mix human and Zalith DNA. Most failed. Some were forgotten, and others, like Kayla, were never meant to be found. "You're one of the hybrids," he whispered. She looked down as if ashamed. "I didn't ask to be born." "I know," Elias said softly. He sat down beside her. The metal was cold, and the wind outside was picking up. He wrapped part of his coat around her. "I don't know how to be a father," he said honestly. She looked at him again. "I don't know how to be a daughter." That made him chuckle just a little. For the first time in many months, Elias smiled. "Well, Kayla, maybe we can figure it out together." She nodded. "Okay." He stood up and held out his hand. She took it, small fingers wrapping around his. Together they climbed out of the rubble. As they walked toward his rover, Elias glanced back at the dome. It would be marked for destruction soon. Another memory buried. But now something had changed. He wasn't alone anymore. Later that night, at his small living unit on the edge of the colony zone, Elias watched Kayla sleep on the couch. He had cleaned her up, given her some warm food, and wrapped her in a blanket. She had fallen asleep instantly, safe for the first time in who knows how long. He sat at the table, staring at the stars outside the window. He thought about the war, the things he had done, the things he had seen, and now this child, a living secret, a reminder of both horror and hope. He didn't know what the future would bring. There would be questions. People might not accept her. They might not accept him for protecting her. But he had made a choice. She had looked up at him and asked, "Will you be my father?" And he couldn't walk away. The morning on Del Terrace IV began with gray skies and cool winds. The sun had not yet risen high, and the colony was still quiet. Captain Elias Rain stood near the door of his unit, holding a warm cup of synth coffee, staring at the hills beyond, the colony walls. He wasn't thinking about war or politics. He was thinking about the small girl sleeping inside, Kayla. She had slept like a stone, wrapped tightly in the blanket he gave her. No cries, no bad dreams, just peace. Maybe she was too tired for anything else. Elias hadn't slept much himself. He kept listening for her breathing, making sure she was still there, still real. Now, as the sun slowly climbed over the rocks, he knew he had to make a decision. Keeping her wasn't going to be easy. The colony had rules. Many people here had lost family in the war, and the hybrids, children like Kayla, were not welcome. People feared them. Some hated them. He turned when he heard the soft sound of feet on the floor. Kayla stood in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. She wore one of his old shirts, far too big for her small frame. Her hair was brushed, but still wild. "Good morning," she said with a shy smile. "Morning," Elias replied, smiling back. "Hungry?" She nodded quickly. He made some food, protein cakes and warm milk. Kayla ate quietly, politely, but fast. She was still learning to trust, but she was trying. "Can I go outside?" she asked when she finished. "Only with me," Elias said. "Not everyone here is ready to meet someone like you." Kayla looked down. "Because I'm different?" He sat across from her and nodded. "Yes, but not in a bad way, just different." She didn't argue. She just accepted it. That hurt Elias more than if she had cried. Later that day, he took her out with him. He had to do inspection work near the water pumps. She wore a hooded jacket, and he told her to stay close. As they walked through the colony streets, a few people noticed her. A shopkeeper glanced their way and whispered to her neighbor. A man on a ladder stopped his work and stared. Elias ignored them. But Kayla felt it. Their looks, their silence. "Do they know what I am?" she whispered. "Not yet," Elias said. "What if they find out?" He looked down at her. "Then I'll still be standing beside you." That made her smile again. She had a beautiful smile. It was small, but real. At the water pump station, while Elias checked the readings, Kayla wandered nearby. There was an old machine, half buried, covered in dirt. It hadn't worked in years. She walked up to it and placed her hand on the side. A moment later, the lights on the panel blinked. Once, then twice. The machine hummed. Elias looked up. "Kayla, what did you do?" She stepped back, confused. "I just touched it." The machine's screen came to life, showing old files, maps, signals, stored energy data. Elias ran over and stared, in disbelief. "This tech hasn't worked since the war." "How?" Kayla shook her head. "It talked to me. I understood it." "Talked to you?" Elias asked. "In my head," she said. It was like music, but made of numbers. Elias felt a chill. She wasn't just a hybrid. She could connect to Zalith technology. That was something only the Zalith had been able to do during the war. They had created her for a reason, and that meant others might come looking for her. That evening, Elias made a secure call to an old friend, Dr. Marin Voss, a retired biologist, who had once worked on the Terran Genetics Council. She had left when the hybrid program began. She couldn't live with what they were doing. When Marin answered the screen, her eyes widened. Elias, it's been years. I need help, he said. Her expression turned serious. Is that a child behind you? Yes. Her name is Kayla. Marin leaned forward. Is she one of them? She's different, Elias said. She activated Zalith tech just by touching it. Marin was silent for a long moment. Elias, you need to get her out of there. If the council finds out, they'll take her. She's not just a hybrid. She might be the last of the Bridge Project. What's the Bridge Project? Elias asked. Marin looked troubled. A secret part of the program. They tried to create children who could connect to both human and Zalith minds. A living peace treaty. But the project failed, or so we thought. Elias looked back at Kayla. She was drawing quietly on a piece of paper, humming to herself. She's more human than anyone I've met, he said. You have to protect her, Marin said, even from our own people. The next morning, trouble arrived. A council drone landed at the colony gates. A message followed, standard scan for unregistered life forms. Routine, they said. Elias didn't believe it. He packed a small bag, put Kayla in the rover, and drove into the outer canyon. He didn't tell her why. He just said they were going on a trip. As they drove, Kayla looked out the window. Are we hiding? She asked. Yes, Elias said. Because of me? No, he said. Because I promised to protect you. They stopped at an old communications tower, long out of use. Elias had used it once during the war. He activated a signal booster and called Marin again. I need a way off-world, he said. I know someone, Marin replied. But it won't be easy. I didn't expect easy, Elias said. Before ending the call, Marin asked, Elias, why are you doing this? He looked at Kayla, who was now asleep in the passenger seat, holding the drawing she had made. Because she looked up at me and said, Will you be my father? And I couldn't walk away. The desert winds blew harder on the third night, brushing dust across the old tower where Elias and Kayla were hiding. The small communication post was falling apart, its walls cracked, wires hanging loose, but it was safe for now. Elias sat at a metal table with a map opened in front of him. He had circled a location deep in the southern valley, Site Echo 7, an old research base long thought destroyed during the war, but Marin had sent a message before shutting off her signal. If she's part of the Bridge Project, the answers are buried at Echo 7. Elias looked at Kayla, who was sitting on the floor nearby drawing with a stick of chalk on an old metal panel. She had drawn stars, shapes, and now she was drawing a strange symbol, round with 4 lines crossing in the center. Where did you learn that? Elias asked, moving closer. Kayla tilted her head. I don't know. I see it in my dreams. It keeps showing up. Elias felt uneasy. The symbol looked like something he had seen on Zalith tech long ago, back when he was still fighting. Kayla had never seen that tech, so how could she know it? He knelt beside her. Kayla, do you remember anything from the lab where you were made? She frowned, thinking hard. There were lights, machines, and voices. Some spoke like you, some didn't. Did they hurt you? She shook her head. No, but they watched me. All the time. Like I was important. Elias stood up and rubbed his forehead. His instincts told him that Kayla was more than just a survivor. She was a key, a living code, and someone, either human or alien, would come for her soon. They had to move. The rover bounced across the rocky valley as the sun rose behind them. Elias drove fast, checking the scanner every few minutes for drones or patrols. Kayla sat beside him, quiet, hugging a blanket. "How far is it?" she asked. 2 more hours, Elias replied. "We'll be safe when we get there." "What, if we're not?" she said. Elias looked at her and gave a small smile. "Then we run again, together." Kayla nodded. She liked that answer. As they neared the site, the land began to change. The rocks turned black, melted in strange shapes. Some looked like bones, others like broken walls. The area had clearly been bombed during the war. Finally, they saw the entrance, half covered in sand and broken steel. A large metal door, rusted but still standing. Elias parked the rover and stepped out. "Stay close." Kyla followed him as he pushed open the door. It creaked loudly, revealing a dark tunnel leading into the earth. They turned on their lights and entered. Inside Echo 7, everything was silent. The walls were marked with strange writing, both human letters and Zalith glyphs. Kayla stared at them as they walked, her eyes glowing faintly. "I can read them," she whispered. Elias raised an eyebrow. "What do they say?" "Instructions," she said. "And warnings." The deeper they went, the more intact the base looked. Broken screens blinked back to life as Kayla passed them. Doors opened on their own. It was as if the place recognized her. They reached a large chamber with a glass cylinder in the center. Inside it, floating in a green liquid, was a small crystal, pulsing with soft blue light. Kayla stepped forward, staring at it. "It's like me," she said. Elias walked to a nearby console. The screen came to life and played a recorded message. A woman's voice spoke, calm, clear, and familiar. "This is Dr. Lara Varn, Bridge Project Lead. If you are hearing this, the experiment succeeded. The child carries the code. Her blood contains the signal needed to unlock peace. Real peace." Elias froze. Dr. Lara Varn. He knew that name. She had been a human scientist who worked with Zalith defectors near the end of the war. Everyone thought she was killed when this site was destroyed. The message continued. "Kayla is the first. She is the bridge, a living link between species. Her DNA carries the key to a communication device, one that can let minds from both sides connect without fear." Elias turned toward Kayla. She was now standing beside the cylinder, her hand lightly touching the glass. Suddenly, the crystal inside responded. It glowed brighter, spinning slowly. The console screen blinked again, showing a star map. Kayla turned to Elias. "It wants to go home." "Where's home?" he asked. She pointed to the map. "There, in the neutral zone. The place where peace was supposed to start." Elias stared at the map. It showed a distant solar system known as Haven's Reach. It had been a planned location for peace talks before the war ruined everything. Now it was empty and silent. Until now. As they prepared to leave, Elias packed the crystal and downloaded the data. But just as they reached the door, his scanner beeped loudly. "Incoming ship," he muttered. "Fast." Kayla looked up, her eyes worried. "We have to go." They ran back to the rover. Dust clouds were already rising in the distance. Elias pushed the rover hard, turning onto a hidden trail through the rocks. Within minutes, a sleek black ship passed overhead. It was no colony ship. It had no markings. "Not ours," Elias said, his hands gripping the wheel. Kayla looked behind them. "They want the crystal." "They won't get it," Elias said. The ship circled once, then disappeared into the clouds. Elias knew it would return. That night, they camped in an old mining tunnel. Elias set up a small fire and sat beside Kayla, who stared at the crystal in her hands. "Do you think they'll keep chasing us?" she asked. "Yes," Elias said. "But that doesn't matter." "Why?" "Because we know where to go. And we're not alone." Kayla looked up. "You mean Marin?" "And others," Elias said. "I'm calling in a few favors." He stood up and activated a signal device. It would reach a few old war friends, people who owed him, and people who believed in something better. Kayla watched him. "Do you think people can change?" she asked. Elias turned to her. "I do. I changed when I met you." She smiled, then looked at the stars through a hole in the tunnel ceiling. "There's a voice I keep hearing," she said. "In my dreams. A woman. I think it's my mother." Elias nodded. "Maybe it is," Kayla whispered. "She says I'm not alone." "You're not," Elias said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Not anymore." The stars glittered coldly above the orbiting shipyard as Elias and Kayla arrived. The station was a maze of steel platforms, docking bays, and humming machinery. It was a place for repair, refueling, and secrets, a safe zone beyond the watchful eyes of the Terran Council. Here, Elias hoped to find allies. Kayla sat quietly in the passenger seat of the shuttle, clutching the glowing crystal they had taken from Echo 7. Her eyes flickered softly, reflecting the bright lights of the station. "Are we safe here?" she asked. Elias smiled, though he knew the danger was far from over. "For now, this place is off the records. Old friends of mine run it. People who still believe peace is possible." As they stepped into the busy dock, Elias spotted a few familiar faces, old soldiers and engineers from the war who had refused to give up hope. They greeted him with cautious nods. None mentioned the child at first, but when Kayla stepped forward, a hush fell over the crowd. They saw her silver eyes, the glow beneath her skin. Whispers began. One man approached, Commander Rel Varys, Elias's former squad leader and now a respected peace advocate. "She's the bridge," Elias said quietly. Rel looked at Kayla with a mixture of awe and concern. The bridge project was supposed to end with the war. If she is alive, this changes everything. Elias nodded. "That's why I need your help. The Council will try to take her, to control her. We have to protect her and get her to Haven's Reach." Rel's expression hardened. "You have my word. We'll stand with you." Meanwhile, Kayla spent her time exploring the station's quiet corners and learning about the ships docked here. She was curious and full of questions. "Why did they want to use me?" she asked Elias one evening as they watched ships launch into space. "To end the war," he said. But they didn't understand what they were creating. "You're not a weapon, Kayla. You're hope." She smiled softly. "I want to believe that." Their moment was interrupted by an urgent alarm. Red lights flashed, and the station went on alert. "Zalith warships," Rel's voice came over the comm. "They've found us." Elias grabbed Kayla's hand. "Get to the shuttle now." The warships arrived fast, sleek and deadly. They moved like shadows against the stars. Their engines hummed a quiet threat. The station's defenders scrambled. Laser turrets rotated, energy shields flickered to life. But the attackers were determined. Elias led a small team to the engineering bay to prepare the main shuttle for launch. Kayla sat strapped in, her hands trembling slightly as she held the crystal. "They're after the code," Elias said. "We have to get it to Haven's Reach." Outside, the station shook under the bombardment. Explosions rocked the metal walls. Suddenly, an alarm blared louder. "Boarding party detected," Elias gritted his teeth. "They're coming inside." He grabbed a plasma rifle and moved toward the airlock with his team. Kayla watched from the shuttle's cockpit, her heart pounding. The airlock doors hissed open. Figures in dark armor appeared. Zalith warriors, swift and silent. Elias fired as they entered. The air filled with the crackle of energy weapons. His team fought fiercely, but the enemy was relentless. Kayla clenched the crystal tightly. Then something happened. A wave of energy pulsed from her body, glowing brighter and brighter. The Zalith froze, their weapons faltering. A shield of light surrounded Kayla, pushing the attackers back. Elias saw it and shouted, "Get her to the shuttle, now." Two soldiers carried Kayla as Elias covered their retreat. The shuttle doors slid open and Kayla was pulled inside just as a blast shook the station. Inside the shuttle, Kayla collapsed into her seat. The glowing shield faded and she looked pale but calm. "What just happened?" Elias asked. "I don't know," she whispered. "It's like my body protected me." "Your mother's voice was right," Elias said softly. "You're stronger than we thought." He started the engines and looked back at the burning station. "We'll have to fight for every step," he said. "But we will get you to Havens." Reach. During the long journey, Elias contacted his old war comrades scattered across space. Some answered quickly, offering support. Others refused, still bitter from the war's pain. One by one, Elias rebuilt a small fleet of loyal ships. They were not many, but they were determined. Kayla trained with them, learning to control her powers. She learned how to focus the energy in her hands, how to shield herself and others. Each day she grew stronger, more confident, and Elias watched, her feeling something he hadn't in years: hope. One night, while they rested near a small asteroid field, Elias received a distress signal. It was faint but urgent. He listened closely. It was Kayla's mother's voice. "I am alive," the message said. "I will find you." Elias looked at Kayla. "Your mother is trying to reach us." Tears welled in Kayla's eyes. "I thought she was gone forever." "We'll find her," Elias promised. The journey to Haven's Reach was filled with dangers. Pirates, rogue soldiers, and bounty hunters tried to intercept them. But Elias and his fleet fought with fierce determination. They were fighting not just for survival, but for a future where humans and Zalith could live in peace. When they finally reached the neutral system, they found the ancient meeting grounds, an abandoned space station designed to host peace talks. Kayla stepped onto the station carrying the crystal. As she placed it in a pedestal, the station powered up, its systems coming to life after years of silence. A holographic message played, the voice of her mother again, offering a plea for peace and understanding. Delegates from both humans and Zalith began to arrive, drawn by the signal from Kayla's blood. Elias stood beside Kayla as she spoke to the crowd. "I am Kayla," she said, her voice steady. "I am both human and Zalith. I carry the hope of two peoples who once fought, but can now find a way to live together." The crowd was silent. Some faces were surprised, others skeptical. But then a Zalith elder stepped forward and bowed his head. "We hear you, bridge child. We choose peace." Elias smiled and looked at Kayla. "You did it?" he said softly. She smiled back. "We did it. Together." The great hall of the ancient station was filled with quiet whispers. Humans and Zalith alike stood gathered, watching Kayla as she stepped forward. Her silver eyes shone brightly, reflecting the soft light from the crystal pedestal. Captain, Elias Rain stood behind her, feeling a mixture of pride and hope. After all they had been through, this moment was more than he had dared imagine. Kayla took a deep breath and began to speak. "I am Kayla. I am not just human, nor just Zalith. I am both. I carry the code of peace in my blood, a code written by those who wished for a future without war." Her voice was steady yet full of emotion. Many in the room looked unsure. Old wounds from the war were deep, and trust was fragile. But then, a Zalith elder stepped forward. His tall, graceful figure moved with slow dignity. His antennae twitched as he spoke, voice calm and low. "Your courage honors us, child of two worlds. We choose to listen. We choose peace." The room filled with a soft murmur of agreement. Human leaders nodded. Some smiled cautiously. Others looked on in silence, considering the new path. Elias looked down at Kayla, who was trembling slightly. He stepped forward and took her hand. "Kayla," he said softly, "you are the bridge we all needed." She smiled, feeling strength from his words. After the speeches, the delegates moved to a smaller chamber for private talks. Elias stayed with Kayla as she met representatives from both sides. They asked her questions about her abilities, her memories, and her hopes. Kayla answered honestly, her voice clear and sincere. She spoke of her dreams, of a world where children like her could live without fear, where humans and Zalith could build together. One of the human delegates, a stern woman named Ambassador Vess, nodded slowly. "This is a new beginning," she said, "but it will take time and patience." Kayla agreed. "I am ready to help." That night, Elias and Kayla stood on the observation deck looking out at the stars. "Do you think they will keep fighting?" Kayla asked softly. Elias thought for a moment. "Some will. Fear and anger do not disappear quickly. But others want peace. Just like us." Kayla leaned her head against Elias's shoulder. "Thank you for not walking away," she whispered. Elias smiled. "I promised I wouldn't. You're my daughter now, Kayla, and I'll protect you, and this future, no matter what." Days passed, and slowly the atmosphere began to change. Meetings continued, trust grew, and the old hatred softened. Kayla worked closely with both sides, helping them understand each other. Her unique ability to connect with Zaleth technology and her human heart made her a symbol of hope. She sent messages back to the colonies and war survivors telling them that peace was possible. Her mother's voice came again, through the crystal's link. "You are not alone," the message said. "You are the future." Kayla smiled, feeling the love and courage her mother had passed on. Elias continued to stand by her side, proud of how far she had come. One day, as they walked through the station's gardens, Elias stopped and looked at Kayla. "You've grown so much," she laughed softly. "And I still have much to learn." He nodded. "We all do." They paused by a small tree planted in the center of the garden, a symbol of new life and hope. "This tree will grow strong," Elias said, "just like us." Kayla touched the leaves gently. "We will grow together." The story of Kayla and Elias spread across the galaxy, a story of courage, love, and the power to change. Humans and Zalith began to rebuild their worlds, not as enemies but as allies. The Bridge Child became a symbol, proof that even after the darkest times, hope can shine brightest. Elias often thought back to that night in the ruins, when Kayla whispered those simple words, "Will you be my father?" He knew then that he could never walk away, because some promises are bigger than fear, and some bonds, like family, are stronger than war.